All right. So today we're going to go over MAO training. Uh, so, oh, so basically, MAO is the max allowable offer. This is going to be for the acquisitions team. So we're going to learn how to calculate and confidently present offers that protect our profit margins and also build trust with the sellers. So first, just quick overview. So we're going to discuss what is MAO, why it matters, the formula to follow, breaking down ARV, estimating repairs, MAO example, and then we'll talk about some adjustments we can make, presenting the offer, some things to avoid, a practice exercise, some tools, resources, recap and takeaways, and then questions and next steps. So this will be a recording. So if you have questions throughout, just write them down, and then we can chat afterwards and go over any questions. All right, so what is MAO? So the foundation of all smart offers in real estate investing. So MAO is the maximum allowable offer, or the most we can pay for a property while still leaving room for us to profit. So it's the foundation of good acquisitions. Without knowing what your MAO is, you're going to get properties that are overpriced, where you're going to waste time and ultimately not make as much money as you would hope or not make any money at all. So it helps us with staying within our margins, right? There's an emotional aspect to this where you want to go a little bit higher, but knowing what your maximum allowable offer is allows you to stay within your margins so you could focus on the deals that make the most sense for you. So it protects, like I said, it protects our business from bad deals, getting into things where it's just going to be a time drain, where we're not going to make the profit that we'd want on the deal. It allows us to present offers confidently to sellers, and it allows us to present offers confidently to sellers, knowing that this is our highest offer that we can make. So we calculate MAO every time before making an offer, so the acquisitions team knows how high they can go and how much they need to negotiate in order to get the deal done. So why does it matter? So avoid overpaying, under offering, and staying consistent. So we want to avoid these mistakes. So one, obviously, we don't want to offer too much. We're losing money on the back end. Like we may not make much, if any, money at all. So we want to know what our budget is essentially. We also don't want to offer too little. We don't want to lose trust and rapport with the sellers. Now, there's flexibility here, right? Because if we have trust and rapport with the sellers, we can get away with a lower offer. Like if we target 30 grand on our assignment fees, maybe there's some assignment fees where we offer 70K, but this is going to be, sorry, we offer where we would make 70K. This is going to be based on circumstance, timing, motivation, and the value that we could provide to a seller so that we can offer less. Because our goal at the end of the day is to make as much profit as possible on any deal. So what MAO allows us to do is keep deals consistent and scalable, avoid emotion-driven decisions, and then create offers based on logic and not guessing. So what's the MAO formula? So MAO is the formula is the ARV times 70% minus repairs minus our wholesale fee. So the after repair value, that's what the home will sell for after renovation. The repairs, this is the cost to rehab the property to that ARV. So in the different training, you went over the components of a house, the roof, the kitchen, the bath, HVAC, foundation, basement. So these are all things that are going to factor into one, getting to that ARV, and obviously two, understanding what the rehab would be. And then we have our wholesale fee. So our assignment profit goal, this says usually 10 to 20. I'm going to change that. Usually we aim for somewhere between 20 to 35. So I'll change that in the presentation. But this formula ensures we can make a profit while still leaving room for our buyer who are wholesaling the deal to make theirs. Okay, so breaking down ARV. So learn how to calculate after repair value using real comps. So how do we determine ARV? So one, we're going to pull comps within 0.5 miles and within the last 6 months. we're going to match bed and bath count and square footage within a range, right? Plus or minus 20%. We want to be within that range typically. And we look for homes that have been renovated and or upgraded. So you can use tools like PropStream, Zillow, Redfin, MLS if you have access, but you can use all these to pull up comps. For the most part, we will fill out the MAO, ARV, that sort of information. But at some point, and if you want to understand how it's done, I'll have another video just walking through how we pull comps, what we look at, and kind of walking through that whole process as well. But yeah, in order to determine ARV, you typically want to find a similar style home. So if you have a ranch, you want to compare it to a ranch. Now, that's not always the case. Some comps are harder than others, but at a high level, half a mile, 6 months, you want to match brick to brick or frame to frame. You don't typically want to use a brick and match it to a frame or vice versa. If you have to, you have to make adjustments. So if your subject property is a frame and you're comparing it to a brick house, you need to make an adjustment for value there. And that's true of any difference, whether it's a 3-bed versus a 4-bed, a 1-bath versus a 2-bath, a 1,200 square foot home versus a 1,600 square foot home. So you'll make minor adjustments to get to a valuation of what you think the property could sell for. One important note, ARV is not what the seller hopes to get. It's based on data, it's based on evidence. So when we talk to buyers, when we make an offer to the seller, we need to know our ARV. We need to have a rough idea of what the repairs are going to be so that we could put together an MAO and an offer price. On the back end, when we dispo a property, ARV and comps are super important because if we're selling a deal to an investor and we say, hey, you could get 300 on the back end when you sell this, we need to be able to show them properties that have sold at 300 or above in order for us to have for them to trust us and for them to know that we know what we're doing. So if there's only property selling for 250 to 275, do not go to them and say the ARV is 300. We're going to say the ARV is 265, 270 based on the comps we're seeing. And the nice thing is you can provide them that information. It's all public information. So you can say, hey, 123 Main Street, 125 Main Street, 234 Main Street are all properties that have sold in the last 6 months in the last half mile that are comps for this property, and they've sold at 230, 240, 250, whatever the number is. So this is why we have our valuation at this. Estimating repairs. So knowing how much it costs to fix a property with practical methods. So really there's two main methods of figuring out what the cost would be. So one is just price it by square foot. So light rehab 15 to 25, medium 25 to 40, and then heavy 40 to 70. These numbers, so typically we'll say a full gut rehab 75 on the interior, 75 a square foot. So I might adjust these numbers up a bit since labor costs have gone up, but more or less, you do it by square footage. So on a 1,000 square foot home, if you're doing a medium rehab, you're looking at about 40 grand to fix it up. If it's a heavy rehab, somewhere between 40 to 70 grand. Or you could do a line item estimate, knowing that a kitchen's going to be 10K, a bathroom's going to be 5, the flooring's going to be 5, the paint's going to be 5, the roof's going to be 8, HVAC's going to be 5, whatever it may be. And you can use both just so you can get practice. You can use one or the other. For us, the repair estimates with buyers, they're going to have different budgets. Some are going to be GCs, they're going to get better pricing. Some are going to have crews. So it's really, we don't come up with repair estimates externally. We let them tell us. We have an internal kind of idea of what the repair is going to be, and that's how we come up with our offer and MAO price. Wholesale, here we go. Wholesale fee. So how do we price the deal and build in our profit margin without losing the deal? So the wholesale fee is our profit on the deal. This typically ranges between 15 and 35, depending on a number of things. So it's the rehab size, the buyer demand, the market risk, the timeline. These are all the things that investors are going to look at as well. If they're doing 150K rehab, that's going to take them 9 months. most likely they're going to look for a higher profit number than if they were doing a 30K rehab that's going to take them 2 months. So when we look at deals, we also take into account these four factors when pricing out the deal and pricing out not necessarily our wholesale fee, because our goal is to just make as much as possible. So if we can lock it up super cheap, we do so, and we let the investors then bid on it. So we don't necessarily want to get greedy. We want to protect our margins, but we do want to stay competitive. Now, if there's other companies involved, we make our offer. We'll ideally do a good job of building rapport and trust with the seller, where they'll kind of work with us, tell us what the other offers are, so we can be competitive. But in terms of our offers, our goal is to get it locked up as low as possible. All right, so MAO example, here goes like a live, kind of like a real world scenario, and calculate the MAO step by step. So let's run the numbers on a sample deal. So the ARV is 300,000, the repairs are 50, and we're looking to make a $15,000 assignment fee. So 300,000 times 0.7 is 210 minus 50 minus 15. So 210 minus 50K in rehab minus our 15K assignment fee is going to be 145. So this says the offer range should be 130 to 145, ideally locking it up lower. On a deal like this, if we feel confident we can move this at 145, we might offer 101, 105. It really depends on the seller and what they're looking to get. But sorry, let me rephrase that. It doesn't so much depend on the seller and what they're looking to get. Like our goal again is to make as much profit as possible on these deals and have as large a spread as possible. So our goal in our sales process is to build in motivation and urgency where price becomes much more negotiable. So our offer on this might be 97,000. It might be 80K. It really just depends on the conversation and where we kind of end up with the numbers. Now, assuming all this is true, the one thing we want to avoid is offering 85 and then potentially going all the way up to 145, because that just leaves a bad taste in the seller's mouth, right? Of we're like really trying to take advantage of the situation, but it's something that we'll look at on a case by case basis. Next, strategy adjustments. So we need to know when to adjust our offer based on a buyer type or the market conditions. So when to go above or below 70%. So hedge fund buyers, they're okay buying at a little bit higher of a price. Rental buyers also can potentially go a little bit higher as well. If it's a risky area or it needs extensive repairs, typically they want to buy lower because of the risk associated with it, right? Like we find that frame houses in bad areas on the south side of Chicago move for significantly cheaper than other deals might. Like a brick house in a nice area, you might be able to move it at 55, 50 to 60% of ARV versus a frame in a bad area, you might be able to move at 35, 40%, maybe less than ARV. So we have to base this on who our end buyer is, what the exit strategy is, and then any sort of market competition as well. Next, we have presenting the offer. So we have to learn to frame the offer in a way that builds trust and reduces objections. So we talk about this in our in the sales script presentation, but how you present the MAO, how you present the offer matters. So the MAO is one piece of the offer and how we do it. So this talks about using the framing of this is what the numbers tell us based on the current comps and the condition. We want this to be a win-win. So we have to anchor higher in an early convo. Anchor higher in an early convo. I would say, anchor lower actually. So I'll fix that. We have to back into the MAO logically, and then obviously stay calm when the seller pushes back. And then what we'll do is we'll role play, practice handling objections. But when we make an offer, we're basing it off their motivation, right? What they told us, the impact it would have. And then we also can use the MAO and we can use the current condition and the comps to push that lower. So for example, we might say, hey, Mr. Seller, I understand you're looking to sell because you inherited the property. This was really tough time for you, and this property just brings up a lot of bad memories. And you mentioned that selling it would really get a lot off your plate in terms of stress and the grief of all the memories in the home. And we want to be able to help you with that. I talked to the team, and they looked at one, being able to help you, being able to take care of some of the things we talked about in the property. They also looked at some of the things we talked about in terms of the condition of the property and the windows needing to be replaced, the leak in the basement, the roof needing to be replaced. And given all that information, where the team came back with for an offer was 77,243, whatever it may be. So we'll work on the presentation of the offer, but that's why we need to understand the repairs. We need to get a sense of the condition and how we present our offers based on those things. All right, so just some common mistakes with MAO. So one is they overestimate ARV, so they rely on hope, not comps. So they might disregard a comp, or say, well, I think I could sell it higher. There shouldn't be any thinking in terms of comps and what they are or what they aren't, right? You have to have evidence to support your position in terms of the comps that you're pulling. So it's very common in investor circles that wholesalers overestimate ARV and underestimate repairs. So a lot of wholesalers, it might be a property that needs 70 grand worth of work, and they're like, oh, you could fix this up for 30. We aren't that type of company, right? We're going to account for all the major items. We're going to make sure that our internal repair estimate is accurate, if even overestimating the repairs, so that we then have a bigger spread when we sell it to an investor. Next is leaving too small of a fee. We have to be able to negotiate so the seller feels like they get a win as well. So we want to make sure that we don't leave too small of a fee. We might start out our offers where it might be a 60K spread, and then we work down to 25 or 30, right? We need to understand that all sellers are going to want to negotiate, and we can't put ourselves in a box where we're only offering 10, 15, 20 grand below what we'd be able to move it for. And then lastly is just we need to know our buyer. So different buyers are going to have different margins. So just understanding those margins, understanding the buyers, and what a property could move for. All right, so we can work through a scenario together. So you'll receive property details, photos, and comps to analyze. And then what we would ask you to do is determine the ARV, estimate the repairs, choose your fee, calculate an MAO, and then present the offer to a partner. So this is something that once you're done reviewing this, we can give you an exercise to work on, just so you have an idea of how this goes and just have some experience actually comping properties. All right, so just some tools, some resources to help you comp. So MAO calculator. So we don't have the MAO calculator. It's just from the original slide, the 70% minus repairs minus the wholesale fee. The comp analysis checklist. Don't have that. We do have the repair cost cheat sheet, and we have in Podio we have basically a part in Podio that will calculate kind of what the offer should be, as well as a space where you can put the comps. I'll change this around and just add different things to the slide, but these make underwriting faster, easier, and more accurate. So recap, takeaways, MAO is a foundation of solid acquisitions. We need to know the MAO first and foremost. We have to stick to the formula. We need to use data, again, not emotion. We need to have comps to support our pricing for the property, and you'll get better at this over time. Practice, perfect practice makes perfect. So as you comp more properties, you'll be more comfortable and have a good idea of what the ARV in an area is. So make sure if you have any questions to ping me after this. We can hop on a call and discuss, but that should give you a rundown of MAO and how to calculate it. Thanks.